Hey, I'm Zach Reed, and we're going to give you a brief history of the guitar today. Um, Obviously, this is a modern guitar, and they did not all look like this in the beginning, I can tell you that. So it's actually unsure when exactly the guitar originated, but it's believed to have originated in the 16th century in Spain, and it was quite different than today's modern guitars that you see in most popular bands and guitar stores and things like that. But it was indeed a low-waisted instrument played at the waist. It had a neck, just as this one does. But in the 16th century, the neck was much wider. The body was a lot more thick. See, this is, a fairly thin instrument. The body actually was much more heavy and thicker, and the neck of the guitar, which is this part right here, actually came all the way down into the belly of the instrument. And at that time it was tuned to C, F, A, and D, and it only had 4 strings. So it wasn't until about the 18th century that the whole model of the guitar kind of began to change drastically, and that's when the guitar got its 6 strings, and then it began to be tuned into E, A, D, G, B, and E, which is what's known today still through popular musicians and anyone that plays guitar as standard tuning, which is the standard tuning for basically anyone that you're going to straight to play into a band. That's your standard tuning. There is various other tunings that you can use, drop tunings, dadgad tunings, things of that nature. But in the 19th century, it went from the 4 strings to the 6 strings and to the standard tuning that we see today. Not a whole lot of changes were made between the 18th and 20th century. Once the guitar got its 6 strings, eventually the neck came up out of the belly and was just a neck, and you had more of a freedom to pluck the strings. And of course, back in the 16th century with the first guitar, they were just a wooden body. They would have had some kind of sound hole in the middle of the guitar, which would resonate the sound from the strings out acoustically, and that's what would provide the sound of the guitar. So there wasn't a whole lot of changes from the 18th to 20th century once the standard tuning was adapted to the modern guitar of that time. But then jump forward to the 1900s, about 1931, the electric guitar was adopted by many jazz players who wanted to actually play single note solos in larger band ensembles. So that's when the electric guitar really began to take off. And from the 1950s through the 60s is when it got its huge boost in popular music, rock music, pop music, jazz, blues, contemporary. The guitar was just plummeted into the mainstream in the 1950s. And then of course, as you went through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s with your big hair metal bands, it was all about guitar. It was all about the electric guitar, all about the solos. But one thing I would like to talk about is 2 pioneers of the guitar. And when you think history of guitar, these 2 names should always come to mind. And they were 2 pioneers who really left their mark on guitars, primarily electric guitars. And their name is Leo Fender and Les Paul. You may or may not be familiar with the brands Fender and Gibson. Those are arguably the 2 most popular and the best brands of guitar that you can buy to this day. Leo Fender actually he crafted this double cutaway bodied guitar. It's an alder body with a maple neck on it. And he patented this double cutaway design and began to work with his colleagues on developing the correct pickup systems. The way an electric guitar works is it has the neck, the tuning knobs, then you'll have your fretboard goes down into the body of the guitar, and then where you really get your sound is from these pickups. This is a Fender Stratocaster, which is the exact guitar that Leo Fender created and made his mark on history. This one has 3 single coil pickups, and what these are, they're alkaline magnetic pickups. So when you pluck a string, then the sound resonates and is pulled from the pickups into the guitar through the wires, then it will come out the 1/4-inch cable, then it will go into the amplifier, and that's how you get your sound. Leo Fender designed many guitars after the Stratocaster, but this Fender Stratocaster is the first one, and it was the most popular. It's the main guitar that he's known for. And then Les Paul, he got together with the company Gibson Guitars, and he created a single cutaway electric guitar, which is different than this. It uses a mahogany body, and it uses oftentimes a rosewood fretboard instead of the maple and the alder. It's a bit heavier and has a bit heavier of a sound. But those two people, Leo Fender and Les Paul, really left their mark on guitars, because today we still use the same guitars that they made. Not a lot has changed from the invention of the Fender Stratocaster and the Gibson Les Paul. There's only been minor changes, updates. Some technology, gets a little more advanced, maybe a little bit more advanced with the pickup systems and the electronics in the guitar. But as for the body, the shape, the neck, the way that it feels, looks, and played, it hasn't changed hardly at all. You could get online and you could look up the Fender Stratocasters from the 60s and the 50s, and they will look nearly identical to this one that I have here today. This is a 2019 Fender Stratocaster. Like I said, this is the newest model, but all the way back to the 60s there wasn't much changes. But if it wasn't for that heavy, awkward, wasted instrument in the 16th century in Spain, we would not have the guitars that we have today to play with and to really leave their mark on things like big hair metal in the 80s, rock music, grunge music, B.B. King and blues music like that. Eric Clapton played a Stratocaster his entire career. That's his favorite guitar, and that's what he always plays. And if it wasn't for Leo Fender and Les Paul, I don't know where we would be in terms of electric guitars today. So that's a brief history of the guitar, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.